Hold on to your butts.
Da-da-da. You were saying?
Welcome to episode 83 of the Civil War Breakfast Club. Tonight I am joined by the guy who bases his after-work beer on how good or bad his day was. Tonight was Pabst Blue Ribbon, which tells you all you need to know right there, which basically says if he's having a Labatt Blue, folks, that means the world is about to end. I am his former Labatt Blue drinking co-host, Mary. Welcome to Civil War Breakfast Club podcast.
Well, that was a fantastic one there, Mary. I gotta tell you. Nothing wrong with a little Pabst Blue Ribbon, but on a little blue day. It's on one of those days, Mary. You know how it is sometimes. Oh, yeah, God, you know how moods tend to be. God knows how you are with your mood. We know.
You notice how we're now usually recording on like a Wednesday or Thursday night, and the Tuesday mood thing is not a thing anymore.
No, now it's a Wednesday or a Thursday thing. Today's a Thursday thing. But you seem like you're okay, so there you go. Seem like you're in a pretty good mood overall. I guess I'll sit around here all day till you ask what I'm drinking, I guess.
Oh my God, you make me feel like a bad host. What are you drinking?
Oh, thanks for asking, Mary. I'm drinking, it's called Little Victories, because that's kind of what this one is tonight. It's a victory, but it's a little victory, okay? And I'm drinking out of my Union Civil War Champions Northern mug, because frankly, I don't really have anything else to drink out of today. So I know what you're drinking already, because I cheated and looked ahead. But I'll go ahead and ask you anyway. What are you drinking?
I am drinking Ransack the Universe by Collective Arts, and I chose that one because what happens to somebody in our episode tonight is they kind of get a little bit ransacked. And I am drinking it out of my General George Gordon Meade mug because I am Team Meade. He doesn't play a huge role in this episode and in this battle we're talking about. He does a little bit at the beginning, but I do feel he gets a little bit dicked over and isn't treated very, very fairly. So, yeah, that's why I'm drinking out of my General Meade mug. I am Team Meade.
Well, you like somebody with principles. Good for you. So, now, quick question, Mary. You feeling yellow? You feel yellow today?
What are you, yellow?
What are you, yellow? You don't call me yellow.
What was that? In Back to the Future Part 2 where the guy had that was when they went into like whatever year it was, and he had everyone like, what are you, yellow? And then you heard the like bark, 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 bark on the jacket.
All right, we're taking this one. Okay, well, as we were saying, Mary.
So today, what I'm talking about.
Okay. So today we're talking about the Battle of Yellow Tavern, okay? And like many, it's one of those little victories that has a gigantic impact on the rest of the war. Now, we talked before about little things here and there, but to set the stage real quick, it's May 1864, so we can go back on your Wayback Machine, right?
If I could turn back time.
Yeah, I don't know where we started that horrible tradition.
We should really start when we say Wayback Machine. We should really briefly just play like a little bit of the Back to the Future theme, like the da-da-da-da-da-da.
Okay, it's okay. We want to get involved in discussion, Miss Hilbert, but that's okay. So back in May of 1864, U.S. Grant is now in the East. He's overseeing George Meade's Army of the Potomac. Grant is in the midst of what will be called his Overland Campaign. It's that aggressive, that nonstop assault aimed to keep Robert E. Lee and his Army of Northern Virginia on its heels all the way to Richmond. Now, this aggressive style from the Union generals knew, just talking about this, normally after these battles in the past, they'd either get a victory or they'd take a loss, but they'd fall back and they'd lick their wounds and they'd prepare for the next move. Now, Grant wasn't having it, right?
No.
After the Battle of the Wilderness, which took place from May 5th to the 7th of 1864, this is that bloodbath that cost the Union 17,000 casualties, cost the Confederates 13,000 casualties. Grant kept coming, right? Instead of falling back to reassess his next move, he's going to shift his army south and east, and he's going to make changes to his army on the fly. Now, one significant change he's going to make is he's going to install our old friend, Philip Sheridan, Mary, as commander of the Federal Cavalry. Now, on its face, it seems like a normal move, but, the problem with Sheridan's philosophy, okay, how the cavalry, and this is the big debate here we're going to talk about for a minute, is what is the role of the cavalry? Now, George Meade, that old, the old snapping turtle, okay, he's of the belief that the cavalry should do reconnaissance and screen, and Sheridan has a totally different idea of what he wants to do with his cavalry.
Yep. He wants to be able to do his own separate missions. He wants to be able to basically fight battles. How he's going to get this is he is going to basically say like, well, I want to go get J.E.B. Stuart. So the lead up to this is that as you said, Sheridan is not happy with his place in the Army of the Potomac. And, we're talking about how this is a little battle, like Yellow Tavern's a little battle, but it's got huge impacts. This is one of these impacts that happens before the battle. So Sheridan's not happy with his place in the AOP. He's currently taking orders from Meade, which he does not like, and he feels that they just should be independent, doing long distance raids, not just doing this like he sees it as kind of like useless recon and protecting the trains and all this other stuff. The tension between Meade and Sheridan in this one bio by Huntington, the author describes it as combustible in his Meade bio. It was combustible. And Meade so what happened is Meade had ordered the cavalry to clear the road all the way to Spotsylvania Courthouse, but the Rebs are still blocking the road. So Greg, one of Sheridan's cavalry guys, is at this tavern. Meade ends up issuing orders to Greg and Merritt that will basically bypass Sheridan. After this happens, Sheridan will claim that Meade changed the orders that Sheridan had already given to Greg and Merritt. Meanwhile, what happened is Meade's orders got there first. Greg and Merritt booted it the fuck out of there, and then Sheridan's orders got there. So it was a whole timing thing, but Sheridan makes it seem like, oh, Meade rewrote my orders kind of thing. So Sheridan ends up going to Meade's tent, and both of them are pissed. We're talking about Sheridan and Warren, who are the two biggest egos in the Army of the Potomac right at this time, and you have Sheridan and Meade, who have probably the biggest tempers in the Army of the Potomac, and they're about to head it off with each other. Horace Porter said that Sheridan was equally fiery and smarting under the belief that he had been unjustly treated. So Sheridan tells Meade that he wants to be unleashed, basically. He's like, let me go. I want to do my own thing. Horace Porter said his language throughout was highly spiced and conspicuously italicized with explicitives. So he's
I know that feeling.
Jeez. So apparently Meade was the first to calm down. He's kind of like, okay, let's just diffuse the situation. And Sheridan accused him of trying to direct the cavalry himself. And Meade's like, no, I didn't mean that. And apparently in this meeting, Huntington describes it really well in his biography about Meade. And he said that Meade goes over and places his hands on Sheridan's shoulders and is like, kind of like very fatherly, like just, it's okay. It's going to be okay kind of thing. Sheridan says to Meade, if I am permitted to cut loose from this army, I'll draw Stuart after me and whip him. And this is Sheridan's other thing, is he desperately wants to get Stuart. And he said, I could whip J.E.B. Stuart if you would only let me. But since you insisted on giving the cavalry directions without consulting or even notifying me, you could henceforth command the cavalry corps yourself. So he's really laying into it. They kind of they storm away from each other. Meade goes to Grant's tent to let him know what has happened. And Meade is expecting Grant to be all like, yeah, he was insubordinate to you. That's terrible, whatever. No, Grant says, did Sheridan say that? Well, he generally knows what he's talking about. So, just let him do his thing. And Meade's like, what the hell?
Sheridan knew, he had higher numbers. He also knew he had greater firepower.
Yeah.
And, and there's a conversation they go back and forth. And this is a classic measuring contest.
It is.
Right?
And it also shows just what Sheridan, I mean, I don't like him, but he's like Grant's little lapdog and he can do no wrong.
No, I mean, there's no question about that. Don't forget too, is, Sheridan, just like you said, he wants to go get Stuart. Now, Meade has a history with Stuart going back to Gettysburg. So he's telling him, listen, I know you want to go get him, but understand this J.E.B. Stuart, he's very fast and he's very organized. So just so you know. And Sheridan heard that and he took it as a challenge, like that Michael Jordan meme. So I took that personally. That's what it was.
It's not a challenge. Hold my beer.
And so he's going to ask Grant, basically, just like you said, for permission to take his cavalry out and away from the rest of the army and chase down J.E.B. Stuart. Grant, just like you said, it's like, whatever, okay.
Yeah, and in this case, in some ways, I think Sheridan was insubordinate with the way he spoke to Meade. He's basically saying, well, you just direct the cavalry yourself. He's acting like it's just like, whoa, are you having a tantrum over this?
This is a situation of the teenager goes, Mom, I want to take the car up.
Yeah.
I was just, no. And he goes, you know what? Just get the hell, just go. Just go.
Or it's like, I'm going to go talk to Dad.
Right. And so they do. And despite all of Meade's warnings and Meade's experiences with old J.E.B., okay, he seems to be okay with this. He does. Mm-hmm. And so the thing about Sheridan, he's actually thought this out, though. Okay,
yeah, he has.
So his plan's basically kind of straightforward. He's going to take the full cavalry now, and he's going to ride towards Richmond. He's going to take his time. He's going to stop and smell the daisies any chance he gets, because he wants to make sure Stuart knows he's going, because he wants Stuart to chase after him, which of course he does. And now if they have a chance to destroy some supplies along the way and they want to make Lee freak out a little bit that he's going to Richmond, well, that's cool too.
Yep.
But the primary goal is he doesn't really have real plans to go to Richmond. He really doesn't.
No.
What he wants is he wants Stuart. Okay, he wants him bad, and he knows if he moves out with that, Sheridan's going to have a gigantic number advantage here. Sheridan's going to know that he has a big numeral, advantage. He knows he's going to have it. Now, he probably surmises, Stuart probably knows it too. May 8th, Sheridan's going to begin his ride, and he's going to slip away from Spotsylvania, which is where they were, and he's going to begin that slow ride towards Richmond. Again, he's going to take his time because he's looking for a fight. He's not trying to get to Richmond. He's going to have 12,000 troopers and 32 pieces of artillery with him. This is going to be the strongest cavalry force in the entire eastern theater of this war. It's going to be a monster of a cavalry.
13 miles long.
13 miles long. He'll take all 3 divisions, Wesley Merritt, David McMurtry Gregg, run DMG, okay, and James Wilson. So he's taken the whole shooting match with this. And so, right, and guess what happens? As if on cue, Stuart is going to go, well, I better get going then.
Yep.
So he's going to begin his pursuit of Sheridan. He's only got 4,000 guys. Okay. Now, quick math on you, Mary. That's going to be like a 3-to-1 ratio here, 4-to-1 ratio. We're talking big numbers here, right? And Stuart's going to know it. He knows he's down on manpower. He realizes that, he has to get between Sheridan and Richmond because he thinks he's going to Richmond too,
and that's
right?
exactly what they wanted to do, was to start freaking Richmond out. And Sheridan is very confident in his ability to get Stuart, as he was with like Meade and Grant. Sheridan tells David Gregg, "We will give him a fair, square fight. We are strong, and I know we can beat him. And in view of my recent representations to General Meade, I shall expect nothing but success." Colonel James Kidd, who was with some of the Michigan troopers, said Sheridan went out with the utmost deliberation, looking for trouble, seeking it, and desiring before every other thing to fight Stuart and fight him on his native hearth.
This is you going to the mine on a Saturday night. You're looking for trouble. Okay, that's what he's doing, right? Now, what Stuart does know though. Stuart knows he has to move fast because he knows that any chance he has is got to get ahead of him, okay, and try to find a way to trick him, trap him, do something, okay. Now, J.E.B at his disposal, as I mentioned, he's got 4,000 guys. He's going to, under the command of a guy named William Wickham and a guy named Lunsford Lomax we'll talk about. He's also going to have a brigade under James Gordon too, but it's primarily Wickham and Lomax. That's pretty much who it is. Early on the morning of May 9th, that beginning part, that vanguard, if you will, of Wickham's troops are going to begin to catch up with the savannah of Sheridan's men. Because remember, Sheridan's taking his sweet ass time, okay?
He's only moving at 4 miles an hour, which he's capable of moving like a lot faster as well. But, the troopers are riding 4 across. They've got 32 guns. They've got forage for their horses and mules and all that. And they're loaded with food and ammo as well. But they are taking their sweet ass time with this.
They're taking their time. And so Wickham's guys do get behind them, start to nip at their heels a little bit as they approach a place called Beaver Dam Station. Now, while at Beaver Dam, okay, Sheridan is going to take advantage and he's going to do those Beetlejuice, those cavalry things we talk about, right?
Yep.
He's going to utilize George Custer. We'll talk a lot about him tonight.
Yep.
They're going to rip up train tracks. They're going to destroy, and they're going to capture supplies. They're going to get flour and bacon and liquor and all the usual stuff a growing boy needs, right?
Yep.
They're also going to liberate 400 Union prisoners there who have been caught, who are in the process of being transported to Richmond, okay? So they're going to pick up some guys. Now, Sheridan's choice to stop at Beaver Dam Station is very smart, okay? And not just because of the supplies. Remember, his primary goal is to draw Stuart out, okay? That's what he wants. So in that regard, why is it important? It's because of who lives in Beaver Dam Station, and that's Stuart's wife, Flora, and their 2 kids, okay? So invading the town that his wife and kids live in is putting out the bat signal for J.E.B. Stuart. So now he's definitely going to be going there. So this is going to pretty much ensure that not only is Stuart's cavalry going to go, but personally he's going to go. And so Sheridan's going to continue. He's going to get through there, and he's going to continue that slow roll through Virginia. Under that guise, he's still going to Richmond.
And he's going to keep going. The one thing that does happen is May 10th, 1864, Stuart does visit his wife, Flora. And then apparently after the meeting, he said to one of his staff officers, Major Reed Venable, that he did not to expect to survive the war. I don't know how it is we have these final words of men who are about, like, I'm kind of going to give away the ending here, about to die, but they always say like, oh, I think I'm not going to make it. And then like 24 hours later, they get mortally wounded or they die.
Well, yeah, I mean, the day they beat it by one day, the 10th, Sheridan has vacated the
Yeah.
dance floor, right? As you say, he's gone. And, Stuart will go visit Flora, just like you said, and his two kids, Jimmy and Virginia, Jeb Jr., they call him
Yeah.
Jimmy, okay? They did have another daughter, Flora, who died a year or two before that. But so he has two kids. But he was extremely relieved and happy that they were safe.
Yeah.
And he did get to hang out with them for a little while. And there's a story where he kissed Flora goodbye before moving on. And like you said, you don't want to give away the ending here, but little did he know that was his final goodbye to Flora.
Yeah.
It was going to be that day. And we'll talk about that. But when he does go, Jeb is going to put Gordon in charge of his men to continue to try to hit Sheridan's rear.
Yeah.
In the hopes of what he wants to do is slow them down, because he wants Lomax and Wickham to be able to get around now to get between Sheridan and Richmond. Now, Stuart at this point, again, still thinks he's going to Richmond.
Yep.
But he has no idea that he has this big target on him, right? So by 8:00 in the morning on May 11th, okay, Stuart's men, primarily guys under Lomax, are going to get ahead of Sheridan. They're going to arrive at an intersection of a road called the Telegraph Road and Mountain Road, which is just north of a shitty 3-story inn that's yellowed that all the locals call Yellow Tavern.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds like a place you go to on a Friday night in Goderich, by the way.
It actually does sound like a ye old saloon.
we got places like that here too. But the troops under William Wickham, they haven't arrived yet. Okay. And so Stuart is going to put Lomax's men across that Telegraph Road. What he wants to do, his plan is he wants to set up Lomax, and then when Wickham gets there, he wants to set them up a little further north at a right angle. Think of like a 7, okay, where Lomax is going across and Wickham's going down. In this way, when Sheridan comes, they're going to start to fight with Lomax, and then Wickham is going to charge at him, hit him in the flank.
Yep.
That's kind of in a nutshell what Stuart's thinking going into this, because he's down like a 3 to 4 to 1 man ratio. So that's the only way he thinks he can really do it, is get them in this trap, okay? Lomax is going to make it near Yellow Tavern. By the time they get there, they are wiped the F out. They're tired from riding all night. They're tired. They're wiped out. And this is the benefit of Sheridan taking his time, as his men are going to be arrested.
Exactly. Like his men are taking the time. And this is when Stuart, when he arrives there, he sends Bragg, who is in command of the city's defenses at Richmond. He says, "My men and horses are tired, hungry, and jaded, but all right." That sounds it's like, I don't know what he's trying to get at with that message, but the other thing too, to remember is, like, Stuart's reputation in the North is one of invincibility. Like by 1864, like, Stuart's invincibility is all but accepted but fact within the Army of the Potomac, which that's probably why Meade was like, you really want to go after this guy? But Sheridan's all like, yeah, whatever, I've got it. So, but Jeb Stuart is, I think, I got to wonder if at this time at Yellow Tavern, when he's saying this to Bragg, that my men are tired, they're hungry, but we're okay. It's like, is he starting to question his ability to fight, and protect Richmond?
He's going to send his chief of staff, Henry McClellan, to Richmond. Okay. Yeah. And we talk a little about him. A lot of the stuff that comes later on with this is from McClellan, but, he's going to go there and he's going to talk to old Braxey, who's in Richmond now, who's an advisor to Jefferson Davis, saying, "Can you guys defend the city? Because I can't." This is what Stuart's saying. Yeah,
and that's why that's why he's sending that message saying, like, my men and horses are tired, hungry, and jaded, but all right. Like, other words, like, don't expect me to do much here, dude, for you.
He's like, you better, whatever. But so Lomax is going to find himself in that around 8:00 in the morning, setting up his men along that Telegraph Road. Yeah. Now, real quick on Lunsford Lomax, interesting fellow, Mary. He's a New Englander. Okay. Who was born in Newport, Rhode Island in November of 1835.
Rhode Islander.
He was a son of Virginia royalty. Virginia, though, okay? His father fought in the War of 1812 in New Orleans against Canadians, probably. And
we were in a country then.
Oh, God, here we go. And his great-grandfather, who's also named Lunsford, he was a member of the Virginia House of Burgesses in the 1750s, right? His grandfather, Thomas, was also a member of the Virginia House of Delegates. So this Lomax family's big in Virginia. Now, his father is going to die, and they're going to be living at the time in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is not far from here, right outside of Boston, right? Um, and they're going to move to Washington, D.C. at this point. And this is when young Lunsford is going to enroll in West Point. He'll be in the class of 1856. He'll finish 21st overall. He'll be a classmate of Fitzhugh Lee, who we'll be talking about later on with this.
Yep.
They're going to be the same class, right? After West Point, Lomax is going to end up in that 2nd U.S. Cavalry, that really good cavalry regiment. And he's going to end up in Bleeding, Kansas. He's going to be doing that. But he may be a New Englander by birth, but he's a Southerner by heart. He is, right? So after Fort Sumter in April of 61, he's going to quit the Army and he's going to join the Virginia State Militia, and he will serve under our old friend Joseph E. Johnston, Mary. That's where he's going to end up with him. He will find himself, jump ahead a little bit, he'll find himself at Gettysburg on the 11th Virginia, where he will get his star eventually. He'll be reunited with his former classmate Fitzhugh Lee. And, it's funny about Lomax, Marie. He's not really known for Gettysburg. He just isn't.
No.
But you know what he does after the war? He is going to become the commissioner of the Gettysburg National Military Park.
Really?
So he's going to end up, he's going to be the Grand Poobah of the battlefield.
I mean, even though he's not I would not, when I think Gettysburg, I would not think Lomax at all. Actually, when I hear the name Lomax, I think of Weekend at Bernie's.
No, I don't think that's probably
that's exactly what I'm picturing right now.
All right, so let's see what old Lunsford's doing. It's 8:00 in the morning. He's probably got his Dunkin' Donuts going. He's sitting there in that line waiting near that Yellow Tavern. About 9:00, the initial line of Sheridan's guys and a Custer are going to start to hit the skirmishes. So this is only 1 hour after his dead, tired men have got there and set up. Here comes the Union guys already. The Federals are going to be moving down a road, down the modern-day Woodman Road. They're going to be coming right at him.
Yep.
Now, once the skirmishing starts, Sheridan knows. Here's the thing: when the skirmishing starts, Sheridan, he's rubbing his hands, going excellent, because he knows
exactly
he's found Stuart now.
Exactly,
he knows he's got him. So now he's like, I'm gonna fight. I know where he is. I got him, and this is the deal. So Lomax is going to do his best. He's going to set up his brigade. He's going to 6th Virginia, and then he's going to have the 5th Virginia in the middle, along with the 15th on their right. J.E.B is going to be there, helping to direct the troops. He's going to try to, puppet master the whole thing. Stuart knows pretty quickly at this moment he doesn't have enough guys. He knows he doesn't, and he knows he's basically screwed. What happens is, Sheridan, they start to approach the line, Sheridan's going to approach the line first with Wesley Merritt, and he's going to have Thomas Debon, speaking of Gettysburg, on his right.
Yep.
He's going to have Alfred Gibbs in the middle and George Custer on his right. So pretty big battle line here, They're all going to be dismounted. This is cavalry now, but they're going to be dismounted. Just a couple of regiments are going to stay in the back on the horses. Custer's got a couple of regiments he's going to keep in the back. But as Merritt advances on the rebel line, Lomax is going to Leroy Jenkins it, and they're all going to run at him.
Yeah,
they're going to attack, and they're going to hit Merritt's dismounted men, and it's going to result in brutal hand-to-hand combat right along the Telegraph Road.
Yeah, but Merritt, he's attacking, he's repulsing, he attacks again. The other thing to remember too with this battle is the weaponry that each side is using. So Stuart's men they're just armed with single shot muzzle loaders. Sheridan's men have the Spencer carbines. The rapid firing, not only is Stuart outnumbered, but he's at a technological disadvantage as well at this battle.
We saw those guns at Gettysburg with those back at East Cavalry Field with the 5th and the 6th Michigan, especially Custer's guys. So right off the bat, he knows he's in trouble. And the other thing that's going to affect him, that we're going to talk about in a second, he doesn't have all his men yet. We'll talk about that in a second. But so Devon's brigade, this is guys from the 4th, the 6th, the 9th New York, the 17th PA. They're going to end up going south of Lomax's position. They're going to get on their flank. And when they do that, this is going to force Lomax, the GTFO, out of the area, because he's screwed at this point, and he's going to fall back. So that initial line of Confederates is already broken. Now, here's why Stuart's plan doesn't work: is 2 reasons. One, William Wickham's not there yet. He's a little late. He gets in a skirmish earlier and he gets delayed. The other thing is Sheridan got there early.
Yeah.
So at his plan of having Lomax hold and then Wickham come and hit their flank, that's not going to happen anymore. So now Lomax is on the run. Okay. And so by the time that Wickham gets there, his only real choice is to set up somewhere else, a little further north of Telegraph Road, of where Yellow Tavern is. Okay. Now Lomax is going to fall back pretty damn quick. And he's going to continue to move north with his men as fast as he can. And because what he wants to do now is he wants to hook up with Wickham. He wants to set
Mhm.
up a line with Wickham now because he knows he can't do it by himself. He knows he needs support. Okay. Lomax is going to be running north. He has to jump 5 fences and fields along the way. I mean, this is cavalry here, okay? So he's having a tough time.
Oh my
He has to
God.
cross a creek called Travelers Run, and this is while they're running their friggin' lives, and they're going. And Wickham's line is going to get that they are going to set up on a ridge that runs parallel to the modern day Route 295.
Hmm.
Okay, so the 295 runs right through it, and then behind 295 is that ridge that we're going to talk about. Okay,
Hmm.
um, and Lomax and his men, they are going to get there. They are able to connect with Wickham, and with this entire rebel cavalry together now, it's still about 4,000 guys. Stuart is going to take this opportunity to try to create some kind of defensive line now. So his plan is FUBAR that he initially had. Now he's like, well, I'm kind of screwed,
Yep.
but I have terrain. I
Hmm.
have guys I can line up. So I think I can still do something, but he knows his plan right off the bat's falling apart.
Yeah, it is. And I think he's recognizing, kind of that like, and I'm sure the Union has realized at this point, wow, he's not the invincible Stuart that the papers have made him out to be. And I'm sure Stuart is real. I mean, Stuart is a guy that he didn't like to admit when he wouldn't take, he would not take blame. He would not say, oh, that was my fault kind of thing. And this is one where it's falling apart before his eyes, you
Yeah, I
know?
mean, he has a chance to fight
Yep.
defensively. He's fought with bad odds before. He
Yeah.
knows the terrain. He knows the land. And he's fighting in his mind. He's fighting to save Richmond,
Yeah.
right? So this is
But
his
this is
deal. So
not the Jeb Stuart of 1862 that rode around McClellan. The post Gettysburg Jeb Stuart is very different from that.
no,
Yeah,
he is, but he still has the reputation. His
exactly,
men are still gonna
exactly.
his men are still gonna follow him. They still
Yep.
look at him a certain way. I mean, has he lost a lot of the fastball? Probably, but
Yeah.
again, he's still Jeb Stewart. I mean,
Hmm.
um, so what they're gonna do is they're gonna set up this big long line that's
Yep.
gonna cross Telegraph Road. He's gonna have Wickham. He's gonna line up on the rebel left with the first, the second, the third, the fourth Virginia, along with a battery of artillery under a guy named William Griffith. Okay, which will be very important. We're going to talk about Lomax is going to be on Wickham's left. And once they're all in place, they literally sat and waited. They
Hmm.
just waited. Okay, the attack that they thought was going to come quickly didn't come right away. Okay, and the reason why was, Custer and the boys, they kind of smelled out a rat here a little
They
bit.
did.
So Custer is going to do a little recon, okay, which is ironic because that's what Meade said Cavalry's supposed to do anyway. So
Yep.
here we go, right? Custer is going to go up there. He's going to get a good look at this Confederate line, and he's going to sit there and he's going to realize, okay, there are 4,000 guys in a battle line with artillery. They're going to be on a ridge, so we'll have to go uphill, and they're behind a stream called Turner's Run. So right off the bat, it's like, well, this is going to be good, tough. But Custer, despite him, despite Stuart being in a good position, he feels that he's got a pretty good chance because the numbers that he can attack with success. So he's going to ride back to Sheridan
Hmm.
and to report what he saw. Now he's going to tell Sheridan probably something along the lines of, "We got this.
Yep.
We got it.
It's
So
ours.
let's friggin' go." And so
Yep.
hearing this opinion, Sheridan probably, in hearing about the situation, he yeah the hell out of that, and he certainly did, and he's going to go. So they're going to come up with a game plan on how to attack this because it is a formidable thing, right? The plan is the first thing they need to do is they got to deal with Griffith's battery, okay, that
Hmm.
artillery,
Yep.
okay, and that's going to be the focal point of this attack. To that end, what Custer is going to do, he's going to send the first Michigan, this is all cavalry,
Yep.
to charge the guns and go straight at the guns. Okay. They're going to get support from the 7th Michigan and the 1st Vermont. Okay. And this is different. That's from Wilson's division. But they're going to go full banana right
Yep.
at the guns. You know what? That's a shitty Monday morning for somebody. Okay. I'm telling you that right now.
Yeah. Mondays
Okay.
are shitty enough. I don't need
And
this.
unlike the previous part of this battle, they're going to be mounted this time.
Yep.
They're going to be on the horses this time. Okay. While this is going down, Custer is going to dismount his men from the 5th and 6th Michigan.
Yep.
Okay, we just talked about them. They will attack the middle of Wickham's line. Okay, this is all going to be simultaneous. Okay, on Custer's left, another brigade from Wilson's division under George Chapman. This is going to be the 8th New York and the 3rd Indiana. They're also going to attack. Now, on the rebel left is Lomax's battered line. They were the ones who took that initial brunt. This is where Alfred Gibbs's reserve brigade, consisting of the 19th New York, the 5th, the 12th U.S. Cavalry, as well as the 6th Pennsylvania, they're going to attack Lomax. So all of these regiments are all assigned to hit a certain part of the line. Okay, It's very strategic. So at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the Federal cavalry is going to start this attack. So daylight's running a little late now, but they know what they're going to do, and they're going to launch it right at 4 o'clock.
Yep. And this is where, like, Stuart at this time, he is at the front of what is becoming a very broken line, and he's trying desperately to rally his men.
Well, at first, I mean, when Custer sends in, especially Custer's going to say after the battle, I got a quote here. He says, as soon as the 1st Michigan moved from the cover of the woods, the enemy divined our intention and opened a brisk fire from artillery with shell and canister. So what it basically, as soon as these guys start, they're starting to get pounded on. Now, they're charging the guns under fire.
Yep.
They are going to ride really hard at Griffin's guns fast. Then it's going to be pretty much really fast and hard, and they are going to penetrate that line. Oh, you're going to do that, okay? And while they do that, Stuart's standing watching this happen.
He
okay,
is, yep.
Now Stuart is going to call up reinforcements. He's going to get Company K from the 1st Virginia under Wickham. He's going to move them over, and they're going to have a lot of success driving these Michigan men back. Okay, success like an Alabama football team has against Michigan men. That's how bad this is going to be. But they are going to have success. But to plug the gap, because there were gaps, Stuart's going to have to do this personally. He's going to whip out his pistol, okay, and he's going to join trying to slow those Michigan men, those Michiganders, you want to call them. And this is going to prove to be a very bad idea for Jeb Stuart.
It is. It's going to be very, very bad, because that is when a man is going to approach Stuart, and from 10 to 15 feet away, he's going to take out his pistol and he's going to fire it, and it's going to hit Stuart's side. And Stuart is going to fall. He's going to clasp his right side. His hat falls off, and he kind of he's wobbling around. And his men are like, the general. And then he ordered, Stuart is, sat against a tree, and he orders all of his men back to the line, and an ambulance arrives along with Fitzhugh Lee, and Stuart relinquished command of the cavalry to him, saying, "Go ahead, old fellow. I know you'll do what is right." Now, this man who shot Stuart is from the 5th Michigan, allegedly. Colonel Russell Alger, commander of the 5th Michigan, would claim it was his very own man, Private John Huff. Now, this is disputed. It is not 100% known. There are sources that say we don't know the man who shot Jeb Stuart, and there are sources that say it was probably John Huff. I think that's enough to warrant talking a little bit about John Huff in this episode. In my opinion, I think he probably was the man who shot Jeb Stuart.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're going to tell the story real quick. Russell Alger is going to say, yeah, it was him. Mm-hmm. Custer is going to later agree, okay. And, there's a lot of debate. Was the 5th in the area? A lot of people think it was the 1st Michigan. But again,
we'll never know. We weren't there. We were not there. We were looking back at this now with nearly 160 years, right? And we'll never know 100% what happened. My opinion is it probably was Huff. It might not have been, and it could have been. But again, we'll never know 100% fact. So right. I don't think you can say either way. But if your opinion is it was him, great. If not, good.
Well, the story is, it's what happens not debated. Someone ran by and shot him as he was running by
with the pistol.
Okay?
Yeah,
it was a run by shooting. Is what it was.
Yeah,
okay,
typical Canadian move. I just gave away where Huff is from. So Private John Huff, He is 47 years old at the time of this battle. He was born in 1816 at a place called Holland Landing in Ontario, Canada. So he is, yes, I'm going to say it. I know my country was not officially a country at the time, but we were still Canada. He is a Canadian. He's from Ontario, so he's from my province. He was born about 3 hours from where I live. In 1841, he's going to marry Abigail Barbara Culver in New York State. They are going to move and settle in Michigan. Not much is known about him. All that is known really is this is the man who shot J.E.B. Stuart. And he's a sharpshooter. He was apparently with Berdan sharpshooters. He's part of the 5th Michigan at the time of this battle, obviously. Unfortunately, John Huff is not going to live to tell his story. He's not going to live to be able to say, yes, I was the man that shot J.E.B. Stuart, because on May 28th, 1864, he's during the Battle of Hawes Shop, he's going to be shot in the head. And he's going to spend several weeks at a military hospital before he's sent home to Armada, Michigan by train. And he will pass away on June the 23rd, 1864. And he's buried in Willow Grove Cemetery in Armada County, Michigan, which is actually only a couple hours from me. And I really need to go see his grave. But, you know, like we said, we don't know for certain that he shot him. I believe that he probably did. There's enough evidence there, and that's just my opinion on it. But it's worth it enough to tell his story, that this could very well be the man who shot J.E.B. Stuart. A Canadian took down one of the so-called greatest Confederate cavaliers. We'll
never know. Certainly history. I think most people, when you look at the death of J.E.B. Stuart, I think Huff is the guy that comes up with it. Again, you can debate this stuff all day. And look, there are people who probably has just as much evidence to say it wasn't there is, but you know what? We'll give Huff his day.
We don't 100% know, and because of that, and even then, if Huff is a soldier fighting in the Civil War, let's tell his story a little bit and let's have his name be known. So maybe we can, other people, if there's somebody listening to this in Armada, Michigan, maybe they'll go visit his grave now, because I doubt he gets visited very much.
Yeah, probably not. But we'll talk about the rest of Stuart here in a few minutes. So we'll finish with the battle, then we'll talk about Stuart. But Stuart does go down. Custer is going to send in that 7th Michigan and the 1st Vermont as a reserve, and they're going to overwhelm the rebels. And the rebels are going to take off. That's going to be it. Sheridan is going to get his victory, and that's going to be in essence the end of the Battle of Yellow Tavern. But we're going to talk the rest is about Stuart. Okay, It's important. So his plight. The rest of this is fascinating in a lot of different ways. So you kind of alluded to it a little bit. So a lot of the dialogue that comes from this comes from Henry McClellan, his chief of staff, which is a really good read if you had a chance to read his stuff. So basically, what he describes, he's pretty descriptive. He says after he's been shot, Stuart's going to stay in his horse, holding his side. Okay. Yeah. His hat's going to fall off the horse, and the horse is going to become uncontrollable. Okay, but he stays in the saddle. Captain Gustavus Dorsey, a close staffer of Stuart, is going to see him reeling in the saddle and knows he's been shot. Okay, so Dorsey is going to help get Stuart off this horse that's being tough to control. And he's going to place him under that tree you mentioned. He's going to wait for a new horse. Now, Stuart is going to order Dorsey to leave him, just go. And his subordinate's going to refuse. And he's going to say, I'm going to stay with you until I get you a new horse. And he does. And he's going to get him on that horse, and he's going to get him to the rear, where he's going to hand Stuart off to a private named Private Wheatley, who's going to put him in the ambulance. Now, Wheatley reportedly is going to end up holding Stuart in his arms the whole way in the ambulance to Richmond. Okay. Yeah. Now, it's as Stuart's in the ambulance, he's going to be yelling to his men, because don't forget, this is the 7th Michigan and the 1st Vermont are still coming. So he's still trying to lead his men. He's going to yell, go back and do your duty as I have done mine, and our country will be safe. I would rather die than be whipped. That's what he allegedly says. Now, this is so before he gets the ambulance moving, he's sitting in there. One of his staffers is a guy named William Houlihan. And for some reason, Stuart calls him Honey Bun when he approaches him. Okay. Stuart says to him, Honey Bun, how do I look in the face? Okay. And Houlihan, says to him, General, you are looking right well. You will be all right. And then Jeb responds, I don't know how this is going to turn out, Honey Bun, but if it's God's will and I shall die, then I am ready.
Honey Bun?
That's what he called him, okay? So they're about 15 miles away from Richmond at this point, and they have to take a circuitous route back because the Union presence there, as well as the bad
Yeah.
roads. They're finally going to get to Richmond after dark, and they're going to arrive at the house of Stuart's brother-in-law, a guy named Dr. Charles Brewer,
Mm-hmm.
on Gray Street in Richmond. Now, Brewer knows pretty quickly it's a mortal wound. The best he can do is put ice on it. Just ice up, son. Just put ice on it, right?
God.
Trying to make him comfortable. Now, back at Beaver Dam Station, Flora and her children have no idea of this injury to Jeb Stuart. The reason why is because Sheridan cut the telegraph lines, so they couldn't telegraph Flora, okay? When they ransacked it a couple of days. So I always thought it was ironic that after all the telegraphs that Stuart destroyed, like Gettysburg Campaign, the B&O Railroad, for example,
Yeah.
that they can't get a hold of his wife because someone else cut the telegraph lines.
You know
like those little things, you know?
You know what's really funny is the second beer that I have to drink tonight is called Karma. And I chose it for that reason.
Oh, it's pretty funny. But so obviously it became very important, that they get news to Flora. They want Flora to get to Richmond as soon as possible. So they're going to send a message up to Beaver Dam and let her know what happened and get down to Richmond as soon as possible. Now, we'll talk about what happens, but spoiler alert, she ain't going to get it in time, okay? But
no, which is sad.
No, it is. But the night of May 11th, okay, which is predictably a horrible one for Jeb Stuart, he is in constant and increasing pain throughout the night, but he's going to remain alert. He's going to remain conscious. The morning of May 12th, the reality of his impending death is starting to clearly focus on Stuart now. Now, while he's alert, he begins to write his will out while he's lying there.
Yeah.
He does this impromptu will. He wants his aides, Henry McClellan, we talked about, and Andrew Venable, you mentioned, to get his horses. Now, what's funny about Jeb Stuart, he still has a sense of humor at this point.
He does, yeah.
He's going to tell Venable he wants him to get the bigger horse because he's big. And he's going to get McClellan the smaller one because Venable can't ride on the small horse. So he got fat shamed on his deathbed.
Fat shamed.
Talk about that, right? And so he's gonna order his spurs to be given to Mrs. Lily Lee, a woman in Shepherdston, now West Virginia, and he's going to give his sword to his son. He's going to pull off his hat, and inside of his hat is going to be a small Confederate flag that he received from a woman in Columbia, South Carolina. He's going to ask one of his aides to make sure that this flag gets back to her and let her know that, thank you, but you can have this back now. Sometime in the afternoon of the 12th, who comes knocking on the door is Jefferson Davis.
Yeah, I was just about to mention about Jeff Davis coming to see him, and he comes in and he said, "General, how do you feel?" And Stuart answered, "Easy but willing to die if God and my country think I have fulfilled my destiny and done my duty."
So it's just like, well, it doesn't sound very promising, right?
Yeah,
So
it's like, whoa.
Stuart's pains will continue throughout the day, and he's finally going to ask Dr. Brewer, "Hey, am I going to survive the night here?" And Brewer says, "Nope." He's like, "Well," and as the day goes on, Stuart's condition is going to worsen, and all the while he keeps asking if Flora's coming.
Yeah, this is
and
so
it's sad, right?
It's so
and
sad.
And it got to the point where he's told, no, she's not here. It got to the point where every time the door opened, he would jerk up to see if it was her. He kept looking to see if it was Flora, and it never was, right? Yep. It is sad. According to Henry McClellan, that chief of staff we talked about, Stuart's going to begin to lose focus around now. He's going to start to get a little daffy. I mean, as imagine. And McClellan writes, he reviewed in broken sentences all the glorious campaigns around George McClellan on the peninsula, beyond the Potomac and up the Rapidan, quoting orders and issuing new ones to the couriers with the last injunction to make haste. And Stuart's clearly dying now. He's on the way out, and the doctors tell him, General, if the final enemy is approaching. That's what he says to him.
Oh,
okay.
My God.
And at this point, Stuart, he's going to ask everyone in his room to sing Rock of Ages around his bedside.
That was his favorite song. Stuart, like, the one thing about Stuart is he always had like a band with him. Like he's kind of like the Confederate rock star.
Who would have guessed the band would be Def Leppard? That's the weird thing about it. But
God,
Rock of Ages is what he wanted.
Yeah, Rock of that, because that was his favorite, one of his favorite songs. But yeah, Stuart is this kind of, very much. I sometimes call him the drama queen of the cavalry of the Civil War because, he's got like the feather in his hat. He's always got a band. He loved to, he loved to sing and all that. Another thing about Stuart, he was very religious too, which is interesting
He was.
as
He
well. And
certainly
he was
was.
actually at West Point. I got to get this reference in. He was very good friends with Oliver Otis Howard.
Well, there we
There
go.
we go. There's
Yep.
everybody take a drink.
But they're going to sing Rock of Ages. He's going to be too weak to join in, but they're aware he's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And when the song is over, they finally get stopped singing, whatever happens there. He then says, "I'm going fast now. I am resigned. God will is done." Okay. Stewart's not long after that's going to lose consciousness for good, and he's going to die at 7:38 p.m. that day on the 12th. Okay.
And we are recording this episode on the anniversary of his death.
Almost on the hour too.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the sad part is Flora never makes it to the bedside.
No.
She's going to get to Dr. Brewer's a couple hours later at 11:30. She's going to miss it by about 4 hours.
That's so sad.
So their goodbye at Beaver Dam was their real goodbye. And it's ironic that Sheridan wanted to chase down Stuart, and perhaps by going to Beaver Dam, he allowed Stuart to see his wife one last time before he died. Because he probably wouldn't have if he didn't go there, right? So it's just how it is. So the thing about Jeb, Jeb's going to die. He'll be buried the next day in Richmond at Hollywood Cemetery on the 13th, right? And there's no military honors. His men are all fighting, okay? And what's interesting is there's no troops to do a salute of guns, the 21 gun salute, whatever. But you know what's going on? The Battle of Spotsylvania.
Yeah.
In the distant, and they could hear the distant guns during the funeral, and they used that as a salute, which I always thought was a very fascinating little piece of history. At Yellow, after Yellow Tavern, just to finish up this whole thing with Sheridan, he does try to break through the lines a little bit at Richmond, but not really. He's going to kind of half-ass it and blow right past it. He's going to cross the Chickahominy River. He's going to go meet up with our old friend Benjamin Butler over there across the James River. He'll get resupplied, and he's going to head back to Grant. He's going to get back to Grant on the 24th of February at Chesterfield Station. So he's going to end up making that big circular route.
Yep, and he did everything that was fulfilled. And it's funny how he managed. Sheridan does all that is asked of him in orders that were ironically written by Meade. Meade had to go back and write these orders out to him, which, like, immediately concentrate your available mounted force, and with your ammunition trains and such supply trains are filled, exclusive of ambulances, proceed against the enemy's cavalry, and when your supplies are exhausted, proceed via Newmarket and Green Bay to Haxall's Landing on the James River, and there communicating with General Butler, procure supplies, and return to this army.
Yeah, and he did all of it. It was pretty insignificant. I mean, granted, he did get the prisoner of wars out. He did take the cavalry for a crucial 2 weeks while they were engaged in Spotsylvania.
Yeah, which is just, it's like, that was like, you and I were talking earlier today about this, and you mentioned that's really Grant. Like, he's taken a huge chance with this, and I do understand Meade being very apprehensive with Stuart's reputation at the time. Very invincible and all that, but Sheridan clearly, Sheridan, he's very arrogant, and he probably was like, yeah, I can get that guy. And part of me thinks like, oh, was this just luck? But no, Sheridan's got way more men than Stuart.
He probably saw it as his last chance to bag Stuart, because the war was kind of winding down a little bit. They still had some time to go, but they were far from Richmond at this point. They're thinking, okay, we're going to sack Richmond. They didn't anticipate a big long siege of Petersburg. They were probably thinking they're going to get it pretty quick. For casualties for Sheridan, they lost 625 guys, but they did get 400 back. So that's a negative loss of 225. You don't look at straight numbers.
Yeah.
The Rebs only lost 300 guys, which is kind of a surprise out of the 4,000. But the big one, of course, was Stuart.
Yes.
And the death of Jeb Stuart, it did a lot. Okay. Yeah. What it did is it crushed Robert E. Lee.
Oh yeah, he said, "I can hardly think of him without crying."
It took him until November to hire a successor, and this was Wade Hampton. He went because he just couldn't do it. No, it was actually, what the hell was it? Yeah, it was no, it was August. It was August 64 he hired a successor. So it took a few months, okay? And Lee would say of Stuart, he says, he was second to none in valor, in zeal, in unflinching devotion to his country. To military capacity of a high order in all the virtues of a soldier, he added the bright graces of life. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
this doesn't sound like a guy who would say, "We have no time for that. We have no time." Okay, this sounds like a guy who really respected the capabilities of this guy. And I think, when we look at a lot of the stuff that has happens in popular culture with Lee and Stewart, you realize a lot of it's probably not true
Yep.
because he clearly, and this wasn't just because he died, you could just tell it really affected him. I mean, you could argue it affected him more than it affected Jackson's death if you
I
look at the quotes.
I think it did, looking at the quotes. The other thing too to remember in this is Stuart's family. His wife Flora is going to be in mourning for the remainder of her life, and she will never remarry at all. And she lived in Saltville, Virginia for 15 years after the war. She opened and taught a school in a log cabin. And then she worked from 1880 to 1898 as principal of the Virginia Female Institute in Stanton, Virginia, a position for which Robert E. Lee had recommended for her. So
Mhm.
so that's really interesting. But yeah, like we have to remember, like his family, he's leaving behind his wife and two very young children.
He does. And if you want to visit Yellow Tavern, good luck finding a lot of it. There's not much left of
There's
it,
like a historical
unfortunately.
marker there. I think I've driven
No,
by it one
no.
time, and
Well, if you must have really wanted to see it if you drove by it. It's in the middle of a neighborhood, but it's the Battle of Yellow Town for the most part is gone. It's the victim of urban and
mm,
suburban growth. Route 295, like I mentioned, cuts right in the middle of it, kind of like Monocacy is,
yep,
very similar. The intersection of Telegraph and Mountain Roads basically is now covered with gas stations and strip malls. It's kind of sad the way it is. That Yellow Tavern is obviously long gone, and it's even debated where it even was. Some people they think it's within about a 200-yard radius, but they don't know what side of the road it was on. But suffice it to say, there's not a lot there. The part you mentioned, there is a small little field that is there, the area around Stewart's
yep,
warning site. So it's nestled in a quiet little neighborhood, and there's a small park. It's got a cannon. It's got a flagpole, and it's got that monument. Now, the monument, of course, is to commemorate Stuart, naturally, right?
hmm
And his wounding site. It was dedicated on June 18th, 1888, by Virginia Governor Mary Fitzhugh Lee. He was governor now. His former division commander is now
yep.
governor. He's going to dedicate that. On the monument, in case you're curious, if you want to have a little lost cause fun, it says Jeb Stuart saved Richmond and gave his life.
Lost
So
cause fun.
so if you have some fun with that. So I think at the end of the day, obviously, Jeb Stewart's one of those names. One of those
hmm
names. But I think we've talked a lot about how he compares to some of the other cavalry generals, and he's going to be right at the top. Whether you like him or you don't like him, you've got to respect him for what he did. His impact was gigantic. His loss, his loss does not affect how the battle or the war was going to end up for the Confederacy. But you can see as Lee is starting to lose his top lieutenants now, how it is affecting the rest of his game plan.
Yep.
Overland campaign is going to continue. We talked before, it's going to end up with that siege of Petersburg, and it's going to end up with Appomattox not far after that. But clearly, the loss of Jeb Stuart is going to be one that's going to send shockwaves to the Confederacy. And it's just you can just tell it takes a lot of the steam, especially out of the cavalry. Wade Hampton, as good as he was not Jeb Stuart.
No, I
He,
mean Jeb is
you
this,
know,
like he's 31 years old when he dies.
he's a young guy.
30,
Okay,
like yeah, he's in his early 30s when he dies, and his nickname at West Point had been Beauty. But yeah, his nickname is Beauty Honey Bun. Oh my god.
but again, you look at the overall picture with this, and you can see Yellow Tavern, like we said at the very beginning. It's a small battle. I mean, not a lot of troops went, not a lot of casualties. It's a very interesting one to study from a cavalry perspective. It's got it all:
hmm
dismounted, it's got mounted, it's got repeating rifles, it's got charges, it's got the hand-to-hand combat, it's got the whole deal. It's got Sheridan versus Stewart mano a mano.
Yep.
At the end of the day, it's a small battle with huge ramifications, like many of these do. The Confederate cavalry really is not going to recover from this, as good as Hampton ultimately is. It really is. It really was a knife in the heart to them, and the loss of Jeb Stuart was a gigantic, gigantic loss for Lee personally and for his armies. No
Yep,
question.
it was. I was just gonna say, like, yeah, huge, huge loss. The other thing too with this battle is the kind of the what happens before between Meade and Sheridan. Just kind of it's almost like a rivalry in a way, where Sheridan's like, I don't want to take orders from you, Meade. I want to take orders from just Grant. And it shows what is going behind the scenes in the Army of the Potomac. And I think it shows that, how unfairly at some points Meade was treated, that he's just kind of like, wow, so you're just going to do that even though he's spoken to me that way, kind of thing.
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
shows that, but had this not happened, had Grant been like, yeah, I'm not going to let Sheridan do that, he can keep doing his recon, the Battle of Yellow Tavern might never have happened. As much as I think Grant was a bit of a dick to Meade, and same with Sheridan, in a way it's a good thing it happened, because it's taking out more of Lee.
Well, no, there's no question. There's no question. What Sheridan did at the end of the day, Sheridan was right. He had achieved all of his goals. We talk about Meridian Campaign, how Suey Smith couldn't take out Forrest, right?
Yep.
This is kind of a bigger version of that, except he went for the big fish and got him.
Well, yeah, he did. And he's saying, I can go after Stuart. And I understand why Meade is like, oh my God, no, he's invincible. Like, Meade is buying into that kind of the propaganda, what the papers are saying and all that. Grant does not say much about what goes down between Sheridan and Meade. It's almost like kind of a father that doesn't want to deal with the drama between the children. It's like, oh, no, they get along just fine. Grant just says, on the 8th, I had directed Sheridan verbally to cut loose from the Army of the Potomac and pass around the left Lee's army and attack his cavalry and communications, which was successfully executed. He doesn't say like, yeah, the kids got in a big fucking fight. And he doesn't, but it was actually kind of like, it was like Sheridan was going to Meade as like one parent and being like, yeah, I want to do this. And Meade's like, no, you can't. And then Sheridan's going to Grant and being like, Dad won't let me do this. Right. Like, in a way, that's what it's like. It's like one parent has said no. So Sheridan's like, fine. I'm going to go to the other one and see if they say yes.
No, it's tough. It's tough to say.
And it like Yellow Tavern, the background of it illustrates the behind the scenes of the Army of the Potomac, which is a lot of drama. And we see that even going into 1865 with like, Sheridan and Warren. Sheridan is like, he's drama central. That's why I don't like Sheridan. He's drama central.
He certainly is, but
oh, you're frozen. Oh, you're back. You're a little choppy. You're back now.
Yeah. We lost power and I have no internet, so
you're fine. You're still on.
Data, so anyway, I guess we can drop it off here anyway. I think we can finish up here, but I think it's a good story to tell. So what's coming up next for us?
So next week we are going to be talking part 1 of Battle of Seven Pines. We're going to do 2 parts on Battle of Seven Pines, and then our schedule is going to be a little bit wonky for the next few weeks because we're going to be away to Gettysburg and some battlefields in that area. Just to let y'all know, anybody in the Gettysburg area, on Thursday, May 26th at 7 o'clock, if you want to join us at the Gary Owen, we will be doing a live stream with our friend John Heckman of The Tattooed Historian. And that is at 7 o'clock. It is a free event. Just show up. Maybe try and get there early. But we're going to be upstairs at the Gary Owen doing that. On 2:30 that day at on Thursday, May 26th, we are going to be doing a meetup at Oak Ridge. So if you're in the area for the live stream, join us at Oak Ridge. And then Friday evening, we are going to be on Matt Callery's Addressing Gettysburg, his Addressing Gettysburg Today. He posts that on YouTube. We are going to be doing that with him. So thank you to him for inviting us to be on that. We will be doing that. We are going to be in that area for Memorial Day. So yeah, if y'all are in the area, definitely try and join us for Thursday, May 26th at the Gary Owen Irish Pub for our live stream. We're going to be talking Maine at Gettysburg. So yeah, Charles Tilden, Oliver Otis Howard, Ellis Spear, and maybe that other guy that
James Hall
led the 20th.
Francis McGilvery, Adelbert Ames.
Lawrence?
We'll talk about them all.
We'll talk a little bit about Chamberlain, I'm sure.
A lot of stuff coming down the pike. All right, so that's it for us. Any final words from you, Finchero?
Thank you for doing such an awesome job with this tonight. You definitely know your shit with the Civil War.
And, your stuff, Darren. Well, thank you, Funko Mary. Thank you so much. Okay. She's so nice to me.
Oh my God. Anyway, thank you for all the hard work you do for this podcast, and thank you to our listeners. we had a great roundtable last night with some of you. It was really, really awesome. So thank you for all your support for, we've been doing this for almost 2 years now. And yeah, we'll be back again with y'all next week. How about you,
Yeah,
Darren? Any final words?
Any final words from me? Nope. I think I hit all the spots. I think I got them all. So
Ooh.
I think we're good here. Jeez, but no, it's a good Yellow Tavern. Like many of these episodes we've talked about, I love these ones because people may have heard of them. They may not know the details, but the significance from them for the battles that are deemed kind of small battles. And that's what makes this studying this great is how you can get into the weeds with these battles, and you can make such significance out of them. This one, obviously, the Stuart case is his death.
His death. It's a change in the cavalry for the AOP. It's showing what is going on behind the scenes in the Army of the Potomac, all the drama that is going on with, shockingly, Sheridan, and just kind of how Meade is being treated as well. And yes, the death of Stuart. And with the death of Stuart, you have to remember, like, his wife is in mourning for the rest of her life. He's leaving behind 2 young children as well. Lee has lost probably his best cavalier. And as you said, it takes him a little while to replace it. And it's kind of starting to show the breakdown of the Army of Northern Virginia. Personally, like, my opinion is Stuart was never the same after Gettysburg. And this is just, he lost his fastball. I mean, he had his fastball at the riding around McClellan, but then after Gettysburg, he never really gets it back.
No, I would agree with that. All right, so that's enough for this finale. We're going to head off. So, everybody, thanks for listening again. We appreciate it. Have a great weekend. We will see you on our live. We will hopefully see some of you next week when we get down, 2 weeks actually, when we get down to Gettysburg. A lot of fun stuff coming. Strange stuff afoot at the Circle K for us, Mary, coming down the pike. So way to go. All right. Well, everybody, thanks for listening again. We appreciate it. Have a great rest of the week. Enjoy yourselves. Go Celtics. Go Bruins. That's about it. So whatever.
Go Guardians.
Okay, fine. All right, guys. Good night, everybody.
Okay. See you later, guys. Bye.
Bye.